What's going on, everybody? Rob here, aka Trev23, TREV2323. We're talking about compost today, kind of, and leaves today, and pastas today. Okay, so it's November. It's already November. Those are strawberry plants right there. Those are all my bushes. Those are my Tabasco still. It's November. This should not be happening. Okay, but one ad I saw on social media bothered me a little bit. Just bothered me a little bit. I do my best to keep the leaves off of my lawn. I got a blower and a mulcher and all that stuff, but they said on social media it's best to keep the leaves in your lawn. It's best to keep the leaves are good for your lawn. It's best to keep the leaves in your lawn. No, it's not. One thing that I really don't know about is the pollinators. It says pollinators lay their eggs on the back of the leaves, so it's better for the pollinators. I use bees for pollinators, so I'm not worried about moths or anything else like that. But when you leave your leaves in your grass, see, this will be blown out pretty soon. When you leave your leaves in your grass, what it does is when it gets wet, it dries out your grass. It completely kills it in the dark. It puts too much shade on your grass, compresses it, and it kills your grass. So leaves are good for compost. Leaves are very good for compost, but in the grass, to just leave them on your grass, it's gonna get, especially if you got a whole lot, it's gonna kill your grass in a big location, like our hostas right here. Every year, I mean, it looks crappy now, but every summer this is just filled with hostas. Filled with hostas. Are dying because of the cold, and this is where the leaves bunch up. But everything under here is dead. Dead. Okay, so how I personally use my leaves, because I said I do have the mulcher. I got, it's a 250 mile an hour Black & Decker weeder and mulcher. This is a hosta that I went over with the weed whacker, and I'll never do that again. I'm just going to cut them with scissors. All these right here, this is tomato plant still trying to come up. See, that's a tomato plant in my hostas. But you see, when the hostas die off, everything underneath it is just dead. So all this got to be cut. And don't do it with a weed whacker, because you won't be able to get it with the weed whacker. There's actually garlic in here. This is just weeds, but there's garlic in here for next year already. There's garlic planted in there. Those are weeds coming up. Okay, so more weeds, but let me show you. This is how I do my leaves. This is how I do my leaves. This is completely mulched up leaves. See? Now, I'm not gonna put this directly in my grass. This is going into my compost bin. That's going into my compost. That's cut up leaves. Now, this is that rolling compost bin. Now, you know I got the worm bin and I got this rolling compost bin. Truthfully, I wouldn't have one of these ever again. I'm glad I got it so cheap and so used, because I wanted to try it out. So I've been rolling my first 2 or 3 clippings, and so yes, it is turning into compost. Okay, so you see, but it's still kind of thick and chunky. Okay, it is turning into compost. These are my tomato plants right here. Okay, now this is my last leaf grass cutting that I did not put in there yet. Okay, but I save it because it's not going in here, just like the leaf clippings ain't going in here. Now let's go look at the other compost bin. Look at everything's still green. Still green, middle of November. It's crazy. Okay, so don't forget these hostas. All the hostas are gonna get moved out of this side. We're going with a new garden. But right here, the leaves. Now these leaves right here, I don't mind. These leaves right here, I don't mind. These leaves are actually just gonna turn into compost over the winter. So in between where I'm growing, I don't mind the leaves at all. Now, when these get cut down next year, eventually I'm gonna get a chipper, a wood chipper, because instead of just, I break these in half as best I can and I throw them into my compost, but I want to start putting the tomato plants and all my whatever I'm cutting down in through a trimmer or a chipper to cut it all down into little pieces, because the worms eat it better. Now let's go to the worm bin. Okay, so I'm trying to get my studio with the green screen back in order, so sorry it's a mess right here, but I brought my worm bin back into this area so we could go over the worm bin. All right, this worm tea I got right there is some worm tea. I got some more worm tea put over here. But this is my 55-gallon worm bin. It's lifted up on wheels right here. So you see there's plants growing in the dark. These are the other seeds that were in it. Now this is where I'm gonna put the rest of the grass and the rest of the look at, see, this is the roots that I put in here. They're already being taken apart and eaten, the other tomato plants. Okay, but this dirt is just amazing soil right here. There's tons of worms. I just did a video with all the worms at the top because I left all the food on the top for a long time. So with the leaves, what I'm gonna do with the leaves, this is a egg. That's an eggshell right there, or a bunch of eggshells. Bunch of eggshells right there for the calcium in the dirt. I grind them up before I put them in here. I really do put them in the grinder. And this is a coffee filter right here. Another coffee filter right here. All right, they eat the coffee filters also. But this dirt right here has to be sifted through and gone through now, because it's so much good compost that I could start using it or put it to the side so I could get the rest of them leaves and that grass composted. Now if I fill this to the top, in about a week it's all going to be broken down into dirt like this. This was more grass cuttings than that round composter over there. Now I do have a door down here. I bought hinges for it. I haven't put the hinges on yet. I got the hinges and I got a lock for the door down here. I'm not going to open it because that's what a lot of the stuff is on the ground. I put my shovel in here and I rotate it. I put my shovel in here and I rotate it. I like maybe 10 shovels and I rotate it. But that's just to get it like sort of like the tumbling effect the other one does. But if I want to get the worms all to the top, then I'll put whatever, the tomatoes, all those green tomatoes out there that are still out there that if they're going bad for the season, I'm gonna put them in a blender, blend them up really good, and then put them right in here, right in this compost bin. Now on the bottom of this compost bin right here, that's where I get my worm juice at. All right, that's where I get my worm juice at. So this is perfect soil. And so with this soil right here, where all my tomato plants and all my garden is out there, I'm probably, see, there's two ways I do it, and it depends, and I take it by the season. I'll go out there with a bucket and with the little shovel like this, just get my little shovels all around. I'll take out the middle of the cinder blocks. I'll take out the middle of the cinder blocks and put them in a bucket. And I'll throw them in the compost bin. So the whole season is going to be mixed up again for next season. Or with some of those shredded leaves and grass that I got, I'll mix it up and I'll throw it on the top right there, and that'll be okay for over the winter. But then again, next summer I'm gonna have to go ahead and put some more to mix the dirt and soil, you know, to throw it in there. So I've got to go through this soil right now. There's so much worms, but there's so much good soil that I can separate to start composting again. I had a big rock in here. So much soil that I can compost in here. So I'm making a separator. I'm making my own separator. Basically it's just going to be 2 2x4s with this long, though it's going to be pretty long, with the 2x4s holding it in a solid square. So on one side I could put the worms, and on an angle shake it over plastic so the worms will stay on this and the compost will be in that, and then I could put the rest of the leaves and the grass in here with everything else. But I do prefer this barrel. I got to get that door going. It'd be easier with this if this door was in this hinge, so follow me for that. But another thing is, do I give my worms water? Yes, I do water these. Although one more thing that's kind of my trick up my sleeve, something up my sleeve. I take water. The lights ain't on over here yet. I take water from my fish tanks and my crayfish tanks, and I put that through the worm barrel. So I got for lack of a better word, this is non-chlorinated manure water that I put in the worm bin that drips through to give me that. Now my light is off, but that's a bromelade. Look at my tomato plant. I killed it already for the season. I brought it in for the baby spinach, and the tomato plant is growing again. Rosemary, sage, onions, peppermint, cabbage, cilantro, another bromelade. I don't know what that is. Celery. So this is just stuff this ain't even the tropical stuff. Well, the bromelates are tropical. Bromelade. Those are tropical. But the light's gonna go on late. Will go on later. I only have it on for 6 hours a day. I thought it was 10 watts. This is a 40 watt full spectrum. There's a 100 watt spider farmer and that 100-watt spider farmer produces 10,000 lumens of light. So if you're composting, thinking about composting, looking at composting, for you to have a compost tumbler, and it's way smaller than this anyways, it takes longer. It takes a lot longer than having some red wigglers. This is even the biodegradable tomato plant. When I tie up my tomato plants, it's biodegradable, so I have it in the composting bin, but I'm gonna take it out right now. All right, either way, that's me and my compost bins. And my preference is a red wiggler worm bin. After I finish making my separator, and I'm 3/4 of this is gonna go all the way back down right here. 3/4 of this will be all the way back down. I'll leave some of the night crawlers in there, and then I'm gonna mix up the grass and the leaves and put it in here. But if you put a lot of grass and leaves, bam, in the bottom, and you put your worms in there to start, it's not gonna work. That's why you do need something on the bottom, because you are gonna have to rotate. You are gonna have to separate, because if you put leaves and grass and just put them all the way in the bottom of this dirt and put your night crawlers, they will not be able to eat that in a fast period of time, where it'll get moldy underneath here, underneath this. So you do have to, even though you got worms right here, and this is for a big worm composter, this isn't for a little kitchen one, this is for a big, this is a 55-gallon barrel. You do still need to rotate it, because you don't want, when they start eating everything at the top, the stuff at the bottom keeps going down and keeps going down, and if they didn't finish eating that, it's going to sit on the bottom. So that's why I rotate it around. All right, I prefer the red wigglers over the regular tumbler. And that tumbler, when it got a lot of weight in it, it is heavy to tumble. It's a lot heavier to tumble. And this is the little shovel that I use right here. This is what I go from the bottom to the top, from the bottom to the top. 10 shovels, maybe about once a week. And we have tomatoes, fruits, vegetables, whatever's going bad in the refrigerator goes right into a Ninja blender, right on top of this. And I leave it on the top for a couple days, because I like seeing the worms get into it and everything, and shoot video on that. But it's supposed to be just mixed in with the top layer of dirt. Well, see, I pulled it around. Oh, look at that. I just turned it around. All the red wigglers in there still. So with the try to get all the plastics out and everything, and with the, when all the food's just right sitting on the top, it's just mounds of red wigglers under here. Every spoonful that you turn is a spoonful of worms. It's pretty amazing. So right now, since everything's mixed in pretty good, they went down to the bottom and they're looking for food in the bottom. All right, talk to you later. Subscribe, like, and share, and learn how to compost and garden yourself, because someday you may need it. Bye bye. See, the hosta's clear out. That's a hosta right there. Next season it's ready to come up. This is ready to come up. I'm gonna rake all the leaves from here and everything. This right here side, during the winter time and fall, not as pretty. During the summertime, looks amazing with hostas and then with them flowering. And I gotta try to figure out some other stuff that's gonna be able to grow in the shade. Believe it or not, a lot of cherry tomatoes are growing here in the shade, so I just might let them grow wild next time. Using the machete, you could use scissors, cutting everything down to just the, where you can almost not see nothing from the top, and then it'll be perfect for next year, ready to go. Other than that, you're going to be doing that next spring. Although I don't care for these tumblers, that's just when I'm putting everything in. I'm going to tumble it really good till winter time, so I don't have to tumble it no more. So it got started going. But if I run out of all this thing compost in the basement, then I'll just start grabbing from here and put it in the basement. But this already got a little bit of start. But I guarantee you, all that right there, that big 55-gallon barrel, if I put all that in the 55-gallon barrel, it'll probably be a fourth of the barrel after it's composted down by the worms. I got all my, not all my hospital clippings, because I got more than I do on that side. You see it's filled to the hilt right here. And then if I were to leave this for, say, 2 weeks with the worms, it'll be a considerable difference. But you see, Now also with that, all that ain't gonna be compost at one time. See, this is still not all the way ready. It's still grass. It's just wet grass stuck together. But if you do that with the worm bin and just keep shuffling it around, they'll eat right through that. All right, so I prefer a regular worm bin than this. You've seen how hard it was for me to turn that sucker. Talk to you later. Subscribe, like, and share.